Добрий день всім. Я вітаю вас у медіа.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to welcome you at Ukraine Media Center. Just to remind you that we are supported by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. Now, brief schedule for today's briefing. At 2 p.m., we'll have First Round Captain Natalia Gumenyuk with us, Head of Joint Coordination Center of Defense and Security Forces for Southern part of Ukraine. We'll discuss with Natalia the situation in south of Ukraine and Black Sea region. At 3 p.m. we'll have Alexander Matuzyanik with us in our studio, spokesman of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. He'll tell us about the current situation on the front lines. And right now we have Serhiy Haidai with us, head of Luhansk Oblast military administration. Welcome, Serhiy. Welcome. Hello. Serhiy, could you please tell us about the situation in your oblast? We all see your yet another appeal, maybe tens or hundreds appeal to citizens, calling them to evacuate, whoever can do it. What's going on at the moment? Well, at the moment we already feel we already see something that we have expected and we have been preparing for quite a while. That's about Russian assault, Russian offensive action. They have started offensive action from all directions, wider scale shelling, much more air strikes against our cities along the whole defense line. So we can just state as a matter of fact that the Russian offensive action, which we expected for quite a while, has already started. All the time there are position battles in Rubizhne and Popasna. The enemy cannot do anything. They have been losing their people. They have been losing their equipment. Our guys are downing their UAVs, and on the boundary between Luhansk and Kharkiv Oblast, aircrafts, airplanes are down, so we maintain our defense. And now about evacuation. We are carrying out evacuation. We do it every day, even though there is no ceasefire, no humanitarian convoy. We didn't have it even before. All those corridors were very unclear. But even now we have been evacuating people. We have some video connection problem. Maybe you can try to switch your camera off and on, because we can hear you, but we don't see good. We don't have video connection. So, could please tell us something. You mentioned something about victims among innocent civilians. What's the current situation? If one tries to calculate the number of victims, the number of losses among innocent civilians, it's just impossible to calculate, because we have terrible situations, very difficult situations. For example, in Popasna and Rubizhne, where there is combat action right in those cities, people are just burying their neighbors or acquaintances or relatives in their backyards. It's impossible to calculate. We have official statistics about 200 people who died, but the actual numbers are much higher. I can just name one example. One shelling of Lysychansk, in that one case, because of that shelling, almost 10 people died. They were just torn into fragments, and it took us 2 days to gather them because the shelling continued there. In Hirske, in that community, the situation there is also terrible. All those towns and villages around the town of Hirske are shelled, have been shelled all the time, continuously for 2 months. There is no one day without shelling. A lot of people died, and their bodies are just in the streets. It's impossible to collect them. It's impossible to count them, unfortunately. Yes, indeed, this is a terrible situation. What about wounded people? Is it possible to provide them with medical care, or you organize evacuation for such people? We have 2 hospitals which work in Severodonetsk and in Lysychansk. They have all the necessary medicines. We have supplied with them additional ambulance cars, because nowadays cars are just like expendables. Any shelling may destroy a lot of equipment, a lot of vehicles, so we keep a reserve of several ambulance cars for both Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. We have collected fuel from various places, and we keep that reserve so that if our base is shelled, we would have a reserve. And all difficult patients, we try to evacuate them in Dniprovsk Oblast, in other oblasts, because our hospitals would be unable, with increased shelling, would be unable to provide medical care. So they stabilize those patients or those wounded people, and then we evacuate them from the oblast. Mr. Haidai, could you tell us, we all see that during the last days there have been heavy battle action near Kremenivka or in Kremenivka. What's the situation there? In Kreminna, sorry. Unfortunately, by now those orcs, those aggressors have already occupied the city of Kreminna. Our defenders had to withdraw because they were defending Kreminna for almost 2 months, and the enemy had already targeted pretty much every meter of our defense line, and everybody clearly understood that, you know, there is nothing to keep there, nothing to hold, and nothing to find, nowhere to find shelter. And now our warriors were dying without defeating the enemy. So they withdrew, and they stay in their new positions, and they continue fighting against the Russian army, but in a more effective way. Mr. Haidai, we saw that people whom you managed to evacuate from Luhansk Oblast have already been in Kyiv Oblast in normal, good conditions. Is there any? Do you have any information about the numbers of people which have been evacuated and which have who have been evacuated, who have left the oblast, and where are they? Because as far as I understand, people managed to provide them in normal conditions, right? Well, in terms of numbers, in Luhansk Oblast, people who resided in territories controlled by Ukrainian government, where we had our defense line after the Russian invasion, it's about 350,000 people. Now we have about 70,000 people in the whole Luhansk Oblast. People either left in their own cars, on their own, or using assistance from volunteers, from churches. And we managed to evacuate about up to 40,000 people. All those people are not going nowhere. They go to Western Ukraine. They are all provided with accommodation, so they have a place to live. They are constantly provided with normal food, clothing, individual hygienic items, and medical assistance if needed. And then those people decide on their own whether they want to go, and there is a possibility to go to some further to some European countries to get a refugee status there, or to look for a job, or just to wait until we win and territories are deoccupied and they will be able to return to their homes, to their apartments, if those still exist. If not, then, you know, now the government has been developing a program for fast construction, and that construction would not be some container like modular temporary residence. No, it's about fast construction of normal residential buildings, 4-story buildings with all those rooms, bathrooms, and everything, like with all those amenities in place. And people can go to Kyiv Oblast, to Khmelnytsk, Ternopil, Transcarpathia, and Lviv Oblast. Many oblasts have been helping us and accepting our people. Now evacuation has slowed down in that there are people who almost do not want to leave. For some reason, they are sure that somehow it will not affect them. And we have evacuation, not deportation. You know, we don't get people out of our oblast forcefully, but evacuation takes place every day, and it doesn't matter, be it 1,000 people or 100 people, and maybe 20 or 30 people will still continue working until the very end. Mr. Haidai, according to your calculations, how many people remain in the oblast? Approximately 70,000. 70,000. If you calculate, if you count all those towns and villages, it's about 70,000 people. We also saw some information that most of towns and villages in Luhansk Oblast do not have electricity supply. Is this the case? Well, with Russian shelling, almost all critical infrastructure has been broken. It's not just about electricity as such. Now, we can say that it's almost impossible to restore water supply. We need to construct it anew. It's about water supply, about electricity, about natural gas supply. It's all the same. Everything has been completely broken. And our repair teams which go on site, sometimes they repair something and there is electricity supply for 1 hour, but then there is shelling in some different place and again it's broken. So this is a permanent, ongoing process. They're still moving around trying to restore it, but this is a huge problem. Mr. Haidai, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your work. Thank you for finding time to join us. Thank you. Stay strong, and we will get back to you, dear friends, at 2 p.m. Thank you, and stay with us.